Thank you, Worship. We're live streaming now.
Thank you very much. And I see the voting buttons are back. I didn't have them before, so I guess we'll go with voting buttons from here on in, and Bill will be verbal. So we'll call to order the special council meeting of Friday, September 17th at 4 p.m. As always, we are pleased to be here today on the traditional territory of Treaty 6. We acknowledge all those who share a deep connection with this land. The City of Beaumont respects the histories, languages, and cultures of all of Canada's First Peoples, whether they be of First Nation, Métis, or Inuit descent, and appreciates that their presence continues to enrich Canada's vibrant communities. We are all treaty people, and the peace treaties bind us all. As it is a special meeting, we're only here to look at one item. That's a COVID update. So can I get a member of council to move adoption of the agenda as presented, please? Council. Thank you. Call the question. All in favor? Councillor Danlock?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. And that carries unanimously, which brings us to item 3A, COVID situational updates. Go to the CAO to introduce it and give the briefing.
All right, thank you very much, everybody. Forgive me, I just looked into my light that's shining beside me, and now I can barely see my notes. So bright is something I'm not. Little play on words for you. What I wanted to do today, and it shouldn't take very long, I want to give you a high-level indication of the work that we've been doing this week since we received the more information from from the government, and talk about a potential one of two directions that we can go. So I'm not asking council to bless this service, bless that service, and that'll make sense here in a second, because that gets it too complicated, too clunky. I need to assure you that the previous direction that you had provided to us was that within the AHS guidelines that we maintain services, and we have been doing that. This information that came out this week has a fork in the road. And essentially the question that I want to get to here, and I'll give you a little bit of background in a second, is does council want us to continue to abide by the AHS guidelines to provide as many services as we can, or is council comfortable with utilizing those guidelines? And I'm talking specifically about the restriction exemption program, is going down the other route and not using that REP, which then would require us to shut down to maximum third capacity. And I'll talk here really quickly what the dollars and cents is. So that's ultimately the question we want to get to. Some activities that have happened this week, obviously the announcement at 6:15 on Wednesday for measures that would be implemented at midnight on Thursday. Got to give a lot of credit to the rec staff. By Thursday morning at 5:00 hours, they had a plan in place. So give them credit. I want to thank Legislative Services for setting up this meeting, and you'll see it's going to be structured in a way that I think will get us in and out of here very quickly. I was on a call this afternoon with the Premier, Minister McIver, and Dr. Hinshaw. And it was the same old call that I've been on for 20 months now. A whole bunch of municipalities with specific questions and no answers. And I don't want to be disrespectful, but that's the way this thing's been rolling. Is the province sets out some guidelines. The next day we receive more information. The day after that we receive more information. A week later we receive the orders. So everything we planned this week is based on the announcement, essentially what you heard on Wednesday evening, and the measures that I sent out to council on Thursday. So we do have previous direction from council, like I said, that we continue providing city services in adherence to AHS guidelines. So we don't need specific direction this afternoon, unless you don't want us to do that anymore. And I'll tell you what impacts that is in a second. We're still sorting through the data. That's obvious. We're meeting with regional partners. I met with all my regional colleagues this morning at 7 o'clock. They're all doing very similar things. I thought was interesting is half of them have been asked by their councils to just move, just make decisions and go, and don't bring it back to another council meeting, which I thought was interesting. In this case, I don't think we're in a position to do that. I think we need some direction. So we'll continue to sift through that information. The regional partners are doing very similar to what we're going to propose here. So Effective September 20th, the restriction exemption program is available. And what that is in a nutshell is any patrons 12 and over would have to show proof of vaccination or a negative COVID test within 72 hours to enter our rec facilities. We could implement that if you want us to go full on service, and that's what we recommend. Alternatively, we could not implement the REP, and then we would be faced with 1/3 capacity and a bunch of other measures which have worked for us in the past. The revenue impact of that 1/3 capacity, we estimate to be about $60,000 a month in losses. And not to mention, we will be taking those rec services away from 2/3 of our citizens. We are recommended, and I'll throw out a motion here in a second, or a recommendation here in a second. We recommend that we do adopt the REP so that all patrons over 12 must be vaccinated or a negative test. That's going to have with it some cost of about $35,000 a month for security, because we don't have the staff to ask people at the door of the BSRC and the door of the Ken Nickel. So that's going to have some extra costs as well. I also, depending on council's direction, if we are going to continue to provide full services, that would also include transit. Our transit numbers, the ridership numbers in September, as we expected, are up from August. We think there will be an impact with the mandatory work from home being kicked in and with the virtual learning from our post-secondary. But at this point in time, we just got it up and running. If you want to direct us to continue to provide full services, we believe that's the right direction, and transit should be included in that. If it starts to fall off and becomes a financial liability, then we would bring that specific decision back to council, as we did throughout the pandemic. So a recommendation we're making is that you direct administration that by the end of the fourth quarter of 2021, we will provide a report on any impacts to the cities of Beaumont's services related to the implementation of the Provincial Restrictions Exemption Program and any additional measures used to address the COVID-19 pandemic. That's a motion that would get us both out of each other's way, so to speak, to allow us to continue to provide those services, but it will mean that we are going to implement the REP. So if there's anybody else on the task force that was involved in this decision or in rec or in ledge that would like to add anything, please do so now. If we were to implement the REP, it only applies to the patrons, which I find mind-boggling. The province has made an exemption for employees. The exemption reads, quite frankly, is the REP would not apply to businesses or entities that needed to be accessed for daily living. That makes sense. Employees of businesses participating in the program and children under 12. So it creates that environment where you cannot come into our facility unless you're vaccinated. However, our employees doesn't necessarily have to be vaccinated. That said, we also have other measures in place, and that's the masking, the physical distancing, and so on. So really the question that I'd like to pose to council is, do you want us to continue to strive for full service, or do you want us to, which means implementing the REP, or do you want us to go a different route? And with that, I'll open up questions. Sorry.
So I see no other requests to speak from members of staff. So we'll open it up to members of council. I just want to say, though, we had decided that as a council, we've always been following the public health orders, and we wanted the province to make the decision. And so they came out with some restrictions, and they came out with the REP program, and they came out with some guidance, and still somehow managed to force the decision down to us. So I'm not entirely happy here because we have. I'm not entirely happy with the province here, because now we have to make a decision on what we're going to do within our own facilities in Beaumont. And to clarify for the members of the public, anything that we're implementing here is just in our facilities. It's not going to be a citywide event. Yeah, no good options here. I've always leaned on full services, but we'll see how council feels. We'll open it up to questions and comments from members of council? Councillor Hendricks, followed by Councillor Stout, followed by Councillor Barnhart. Yeah. Councillor Hendricks.
Yeah, thank you, worship, and certainly interesting times, and yet again, more interesting discussion about how to handle the pandemic. On the way the municipalities and other partners are handling this discussion over the last 48 hours, it appears that yeah, we're heading towards the restriction exemption program. That seems to be picked up by, say, the biggest target in the region, which is Edmonton. They've gone full bore on that process with their arena packages. I've received their documents just to understand fully how they're going to implement that. West Edmonton Mall, in fact, is doing exactly the same thing too. And I've gotten their package and all their background to that. That's where they're heading. So I think to be in a proper step with the region, and given how interconnected we are with the region and others, and sports and recreation, all the rest, that would to me be the logical and sensible thing to do. So I'd be voting yes to head in that direction.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hendricks. Councillor Stout.
Thank you, Worship. Just a quick question for CIO Schwartz. How is this, if we do decide to go the route of the REP program? You referred to extra security for the Ken Nickel and at the Sports and Recreation Centre to administer the proof of vaccination, I assume. Could you just give me a rundown on exactly what that would involve, and how do we also enforce this if someone wants to come in and doesn't provide proof of vaccination? Does bylaw get involved at that point, or what are the legal and administrative details of that? Good.
Yeah, the notion of the security guard is, would they be looking for proof on their phone of vaccination, or proof of a negative results of a COVID test within 72 hours? The actual mechanics around enforcement and what we would do if somebody chose not to, quite frankly, they wouldn't be able to enter our facility, and that's why we would use security guards. But what that specifically looks like, if somebody is very adamant, we haven't worked out that detail yet. Should be easy to figure out, because as Councillor Hendricks said, this is being done across our region. There are also some legalities being worked out, so we're kind of on the shirt tails of Edmonton and St. Albert, and letting them sort that out, and then we'll take advantage of the information that they can provide us.
So Edmonton and St. Albert are further down this road. Is that what I'm hearing?
I only caught part of that, but what I assumed you said is that Edmonton's sort of first down this road, and yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Barnhart.
Thank you. I wasn't sure if you said something. I didn't hear it. I apologize for that dead
worries.
airspace. So thank you, CIO Schwartz. For the last 2 days since this was announced, I've been spending a lot of time with reading these guidelines over and over again, making sure I got it myself, because I'm dealing with both the Beaumont Night Market, which I know Council's aware has been canceled, mainly for the reason that you're looking at the extra security costs, the resources and the costs involved with changing the plan so that we can ensure people's safety going the route of the REP. That was the biggest holdback there for going business as usual. We're very upset about that, but at the same time, think it's the right decision. So I agree with the direction you're headed in based on my review. And to one of the points you made about, Mayor, I think you made the point about the decision being pushed back on the municipality. I'm even thinking it's going a little bit further than that, depending on which way we go, pushing the decision onto the people themselves. If you want to participate, here's what you got to do. And I think that's the place that I've reached myself. My question to Mr. Schwartz is, does this also include other city facilities besides recreation? So City Hall, library, youth center, all included? I know the numbers are not the same, but I'm just wondering.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very, very good question. I should have clarified that up front, but I'm glad you asked it. At this point, we are focused on our recreation facilities. We were not intending to do that for City Hall. The library is developing their own plan right now, so we will coordinate that with them once they decide what they're going to do. What was the third part of that? Sorry, Councilor Barnhart.
The youth center.
Yes,
FCSS.
right. So FCSS and the youth center are developing a plan right now. I had asked them for an update, and I may have it in my inbox, but I don't have an answer. So it may very well apply to something like the youth center where people are gathering. But I'll have that clarified and I can get that information out. Yeah. What we're looking for is, are we going to continue to provide services, and then we will put the guidelines in place. But that's a good question. I wish I had that answer for you.
Yeah, I definitely support it. So thank you.
Ron Coswain, followed by Councillor Van Newkirk.
Yeah, thanks, and I appreciate Mike the guidance on this. Pretty straightforward for me. Follow the AHS guidelines, check. Strive for full service, check. The plan that you're putting forward here allows all of our residents to use our facilities, and so that's the green light for me. So thanks for summarising that way, and let's move on.
Councillor Van Newkirk.
Thank you.
Yep, even more succinctly, most access for the most people. There's two choices. The choice of the REP program gives the most access for the most residents to keep using the facilities, and that's where we need to be. Thank you.
Councillor Danlock.
Can you hear me, John?
Yep, we got you.
Oh, good. Thank you. Thank you, Council. Appreciate that. I agree with the AHS guidelines, and as Steve put it eloquently, most facilities, most of our citizens, that makes sense to me. We can't have the unvaccinated dictate the world of the vaccinated. That doesn't make any sense. So I'm in favor of the direction we're looking at. One question I have is, with this new guideline in our facilities for our citizens, you still have to wear a mask inside, right? I was told by a couple of people the REP program goes in, masks aren't required, which made no sense to me at all. I'm pretty sure that person is very incorrect. So my only question is, I'm assuming masks inside would still apply, even though you got your double vaccination, walking into CCBCC or the rec center or the Ken Nickel. Would that be correct?
My assumption is it's going to be correct, but we'll get that in paper once we see it. I have not seen that in the information that's provided to us.
Okay, thank you very much.
But that said, and Paul just sent me the note out. The answer is yes, that they will still be required to wear masks. So he's obviously getting more information through the rec side or his liaison group. Thank you, Paul.
So
thanks, John.
Thank you, Bill. I got one question that'll close out round one, and then we'll open it up for a second round. I went through this one's been coming to me from youth groups all over the place, because the rep program is somewhat contradictory to the youth sport guidelines that were published. I mean, we don't have, how are we going to square that up? Or are we waiting for direction from the province to square it?
In what way? Here's what I'm assuming you're asking me, because we talked about it this morning with the regional CAOs, is there becomes a threshold of the youth being 18 and under, and then there's the 12 and over. Where is that gap and how is it dealt with? The information that we were able to glean today is that we would be asking anybody 12 and over who's entering our facility to be vaccinated or provide the negative test, regardless of what their minor sports association rules are. From what I've been gleaning from my regional partners, it sounds like minor sports and us are pretty aligned on this.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that answer, because that's what I thought it was going to be. But from the provincial announcement, it said children's sport performance, recreation, extracurricular activities. Indoor activities are permitted with requirements for 2-meter physical distancing and masking where possible, and symptoms screening for participants. Youth 18 and under are not required to mask or maintain physical distancing during the physical activity, such as a team sport. And then it goes on to give you the spectator 1/3 and stuff. So basically, proof of vaccination is not required for children's sports to go on for that 12 to 18 group. So there's that gray area. And I agree that from an ease of implementation sake and whatnot, if we're going to go with the rep program, go with the rep program.
The 18 up and over is only if you don't implement the REP program. That's the difference. Sorry, if you do implement it,
12 to 18 kids.
Yeah, so if you do implement it, then it applies to everyone over 12. If you don't, that's when the 12 to 18 confusion comes in. So again, we look at the clarity here for folks.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's just, yeah. Okay, so that finishes round one. We'll go for round two. Councillor Stout, followed by, hang on, where's my list? Councillor Van Newkirk, followed by Councillor Hendricks.
Thank you, Worship. Can I add another couple of sites to the list then? How does this apply in the ELCC and the after school care site?
Yes, now another good question. We're still working through those plans because Child Services has specific regulations, so we will absolutely be following those guidelines. I would suspect it's going to be very similar to what we have right now with the controls in place, because they can't be vaccinated.
No, the children can't be, but there's still also adult access and egress from the building. And then we get into the question. Yeah. Okay. So it's still on.
As soon as we're looking for that clarification. That was one of the questions that was asked of the Premier and Dr. Hinshaw today, is how does that apply? And that's the response. Is Child Services will come out with more specific direction.
With more specific direction. Okay. In general, I'm just listening to other councillors there, and in general, I support the line of making the sites compliant with the what's the abbreviation we're using now? Exemption
program.
Restriction Exemption Program.
Thank you, REP, and I thank you to Councillor Van Newkirk for summing it up very succinctly. I'm just thinking back to Jeremy Bentham and utilitarianism and what is it? You know, the greatest happiness of the greatest number. That's the measure of right and wrong, and that's I think where we have to go with this is that yeah.
Okay, but just to clarify, well, in order to keep this fluid and moving forward, we're not asking for council direction to implement the REP. We're asking for council direction. The council direction is to keep the facilities operating as maximum as possible. That's going to mean the REP. But I don't want to have this meeting again if we can avoid it. If council can give the direction to keep the facilities operating at maximum under AHS guidelines. So that's the question that council's got to answer today.
Yes, and that was the philosophy I was applying to that question. Is yeah.
Yeah, Mayor Stewart, you and I talked about this before the meeting, and I agree. This isn't a specific. Are we implementing REP or not? It's more around service delivery. What I have learned during this meeting, and thank you, Sandy, for sending these out, is that other municipalities are including the REP program in their council motion. It's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. So we're not hung up on it. You tell us to implement full services as per AHS guidelines, that's where we're going. So we can decide on what the motion looks like. We're trying to craft something on the go right now.
Yeah, because if a better alternative comes up to REP, I don't want to have another meeting. So
yeah, no, really good point. Good point.
Anyway, Councillor Van Newkirk, followed by Councillor Hendricks, followed by Councillor Daniluk.
Yeah, just a comment and a quick question. I'm not confident that all the people who need to are going to be able to get what they need out of the My Alberta Health Records by the time it's required. So in that instance, people may show up at a door with, pictures of their vaccination records or vaccination records in their hand, or someone may laminate it or whatever needs to happen. So just hopefully, those in charge of entry to facilities have some flexibility in the early days is all I would say. And, CAO, I'm sure that's probably where you're at, but.
No, absolutely. That's we're going to work with our patrons as develop an implementation timeline where there will be, at some point a drop dead. And after this date, the answer is no. But certainly this thing's coming so fast and it has so many, unanswered questions.
Thank you.
Councillor Hendricks?
Yeah, I think we'll avoid the term drop dead date on this issue. Hey, just one comment quickly from the city of Edmonton. what they've done is they sent out to all the user groups just on the update on the provincial restrictions. Under the spectator attendance is restricted to 1/3 fire code capacity. Attendees are limited to a single household or 2 close contacts of living alone, must be masked and maintain 2 meters physical distance. And then also what they did then was they sent out what those capacities are for all their facilities. So that way the user groups can get a heads up before they get there, knowing that that's the number and that's all you're allowed. And then perhaps they can, sort of police their own people, like hockey and others.
That's it. That's very interesting that they would do that, Councillor Hendricks, because if you adopt the restrictions exemption program, you're not bound by those 1/3 capacity or the spectator limits. It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's almost redundant.
So yeah, so they've gone, and that's under the youth program component, right? The under 18 sports, fitness, recreational performance activities / September 16th. So
That's where we're getting back to that gray area again. So
I wouldn't be surprised if that changes to under 12. That's interesting.
okay,
follow up, Councillor Hendricks, are you good?
oh, that's got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Danlock.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we got you.
Thank you. Just a point of clarification. I've seen a couple of contradictory things in the media, but on the REP program, you must be double vaccinated. Is that correct? Not just one vaccination, you must have double vaccination. That's my understanding. Is that correct, please?
So far, that's my understanding, but I've also been told that they're considering the 14 days after the first vax, but that decision hasn't been finalized unless one of you have heard something that contradicts that. That's the information that we've been told.
Yeah, no, there is a month between the September 20th and I think it's October 25th. I'm going by memory here, but anyway, around that end of October, where one vaccination will do you, and then as of the 25th, you'll need the second one. So
okay, that makes sense.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. It was a bit not quite clear. Thank you. That's all I have, John. Thank you.
thank you, Councillor. Councillor Van Newkirk, followed by Councillor Barnhart, and Councillor Monkoff Swain's hand dropped, so I don't know if that was intentional. But Councillor Van Newkirk,
My hand was lingering. Sorry, Mayor.
your hand was lingering. Councillor Barnhart.
Yes, thank you. My hand was up a second time. Mayor and CAO, just a question on what the motion that you're looking for is, because a part of me would like to know if, it seems to me a little more of a guarantee that we're going down the road of requiring proof of vaccination if we have the REP versus the other way, which would be full service. That could be interpreted a lot of different ways. So
Can we put that motion or the recommended motion up?
Yeah, so Sandy or Shalane, could you put that up? This is the original, the recommendation that I read to you. So that by the end of the fourth quarter of 2021, admin provides a report on any impacts to the City of Beaumont services related to the implementation of the Provincial Restrictions Exemption Program and any additional measures used to address the COVID-19 pandemic. Not sure if that's still what we want to say. It covers it.
Yeah, that gets us a report.
Yeah, that's all it does is give us a report.
Yeah.
And I guess what you're saying is leave you to be the administrator that you are. It's not a council decision. And I'm just not sure.
No, I think where we're going is we're building off of the original direction to provide our services within AHS guidelines as previously directed. So we've already got that motion. So that's why it didn't include it there. But believe me, we can craft this on the fly. We can make it much more simpler. We can put legislative services on hot seat. That's always fine.
Could I suggest
I think
a wording change, Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead. Otherwise, I have one.
Yeah, provide a report on the implementation of the provincial rep. Not of services, impacts of services. The report is on the implementation, which assumes there is one. I just, to me, that would be clear.
Yeah, I see where you're going. Yeah. Because we've already got the previous direction to provide services within the AHS guidelines.
Yeah.
And now what we're saying is we'll commit to bring back. So what did that look like?
Right.
Those two on top of each other would work.
And then, yeah, I was thinking that put another sentence above that one, that council direct administration to continue to operate our facilities as at maximum capacity as possible under AHS guidelines. And that by the end of the fourth quarter 2021, administration provide a report on any impact to the city of Beaumont services related to the implementation of the provincial restrictions exemption program and or any additional measures used to address the COVID-19 pandemic. I think that sort of reaffirms council's commitment to keeping the facilities open and gets the report going. Thoughts, concerns? See, the city clerk popped up.
Thank you, Worship. I just need some time to draft up that motion. If you can just give me some time to work on that.
Okay. Appreciate that.
Just while Shalane's doing that, I just reached out to Sandy and asked her if she had any advice for us to clean this up. I understand the value of adding the first sentence, but it may not be required, but maybe in the interest of cleaning it all up, that it does. So we'll ask the expert. Oh, your sound is not working, Sandy. Again. Darn it.
How about now?
There we go.
There we go.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Yep.
Mayor and Council. Since Council has given direction to administration, there's no need to reaffirm the direction. That motion's already been approved by Council and is already what we're following. So I think the question is just the report back on the implementation of Council's direction.
So just to clarify, if we don't want to change the will of council to continue to operate at maximum, then we don't need that wording?
No, since Council has already given us that direction, administration understands Council's direction on that matter.
Okay.
So what would we suggest the direction be then, similar to what Councillor Barnhart suggested?
Yes, I think that Councillor Barnhart's change in wording would be totally appropriate. Just
And it would
don't want
make
to
it shorter,
repass
of
the
course.
same motion twice.
Yeah, okay, I see what you mean, Sandy. So let's let Shalane catch up to us then, if she got Councillor Barnhart's amendment, and then we'll put it back up and have a look at it.
Okay. While we're waiting for that, does anybody else have any other comments or questions? Moving forward.
Can I ask one question, Mayor?
Sure.
And a different topic. And I'm looking at the chat box right now where, thank you, Councillor Monkoff-Swain. And it was something that stuck out for me. Why is the province not accepting tests from its own services? Does anyone know the answer to that question? I have my hunch, but I'm wondering. Nobody's asked that on the calls you were on?
I'm not aware of the
no.
answer, but I got a good guess.
All right, well, we'll have to share
They're
that.
cheap, is what they're being.
Okay.
All right, that's just me guessing. Councillor Stout.
Thanks, Your Worship. Could somebody direct me to the motion that council made that directed Maximo services that's already been made? When did we make that?
That was probably one of the very first ones that we made when wave 1 started.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. Sandy or Shalane would probably know. They're the ones that pulled this together for us today.
I'd just like to see the wording of what we actually said. I'm not disputing it, but just so that I have a full understanding of what I'm proving today. I'd like to jog my memory of what we approved before.
Okay, we'll see if we can pull that up.
Thank you.
Sandy, are you able to find that while Shalane is pulling the motion together? Oh, no sound.
My apologies. I'm still learning our way around our process.
Oh, yeah.
Not sure how to pull the council history.
Does that matter which way you vote on the motion, Martin? Do we need it now, or can we send it out afterwards?
No, it doesn't make. Well, I guess theoretically it could. I don't think it will, because we all remember this thing in a particular way. I just wanted to make sure that what we were describing, that we weren't making a mistake, that what we were describing is actually what's in place. That's all.
Well, I think
I guess
council,
all I would.
sorry, I was
Go
gonna say, I
ahead.
think council's direction was, through their comments and questioning, was pretty clear on how we wanted to go, and the fact that this meeting is live recorded in the public realm, I think would satisfy any issues should that arise.
Yes, I agree.
Councillor Barnhart, and then we're gonna have a quick motion on this and wrap this up if we can.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't know that my suggestion was heard, because I was saying that the second line would change from provide a report on any impacts to provide a report on the implementation.
Okay, fair enough.
It's a slight word change, but I think it's clear we're saying implement. Well, actually, I know what to change.
The REP.
Change the guidelines to the REP to the guidelines, and I was happy with the REP in there.
Yeah, so that by the end of the fourth quarter, it left.
Lost it. She's doing it again. She's fixing it.
Okay.
Thank you, Worship. Through you to Councillor Barnhart. Okay, so I've added in restrictions exemption program back into it. My misunderstanding, I thought you wanted that portion removed. So if you could just please repeat the part that you wanted to put in there.
Thank you, Ms. Winter. A report on the implementation of the REP.
Any other health measures as applied?
Just to simplify matters and make it clear.
Okay.
Yeah, so essentially you're just taking impacts to the city of Beaumont services related out. Yeah.
I think we're getting in the same place, but I just don't want to confuse it with too many words. I think Sandy, I don't know how to say your last name, Sandy.
Bujea.
Bujea, thank you.
Just how it's spelled.
That would work. Just how it's spelled, although not exactly.
I've been practicing all week, Councillor Barnhart, and I still don't think I got it right.
Bujea, is that right? Bujea?
Bujea.
It is.
Bujea.
It's a cool name, quite frankly.
Okay, Your Worship, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen again. Hopefully this captures it.
The motion is that by the end of the fourth quarter of 2021, administration provide a report on the implementation of the Provincial Restrictions Exemption Program and any additional measures used to address the COVID-19 pandemic. Councillor Barnhart, is that where you're at?
That's what I'm suggesting. Thank you.
Okay. Is there a member of council willing to move the recommended motion as presented?
I do that? If everybody's
Yeah, you can do it, or otherwise I'll do it. But
yeah, well, I would be glad to do that.
Councillor Barnhart moves. Discussion on the motion. Can I clear Councillor Stout's and Councillor Barnhart's hands, because I'm not sure if they're lingering or not. Okay. Discussion on the motion. Councillor Daniluk,
Aye. No discussion, sorry.
no discussion. Like, we're not voting yet. Just wait. It's coming.
Yeah,
Okay, no,
sorry, I
seeing no-
misunderstood the question.
Seeing no further discussion, call the question. All in favor? Councillor Daniluk,
Aye.
and that carries unanimously. I appreciate the work of admin over the last 2 days, bringing this update together and providing us with the impacts as we go forward. Looking forward to seeing some further clarification from the province, recognizing that this is a no-win scenario that we're in. It's the public health orders are the public health orders, and as much as we would prefer not to have to deal with them, thank you very much for dealing with them. They're very complicated and they're kind of contradictory in places, so appreciate that. Seeing no further requests to speak, we will adjourn today's meeting, and hopefully this truly is the last council meeting. But the way it's going, we might be having another couple if COVID keeps going this way. But I appreciate council's perseverance through it, and appreciate you taking your time out on a Friday afternoon to come and deal with this very important matter for our city. So thank you very much. Meeting is